Hi, my name is Emma McDonnell, and today I'll be presenting our work, Easier or Harder, depending on who the hearing person is, co-designing video conferencing tools for small groups with mixed hearing status. This work was done with collaborators Hyun Moon, Lucy Jiang, Stephen Goodman, Raja Kushalnagar, John Froehlich, and Leah Findlater. We'll begin with our motivations. Video conferencing and automatic speech recognition have become ubiquitous, altering the landscape of captioning. Prior work is starting to study how deaf and hard of hearing people navigate online environments. Additionally, a growing body of research explores how others' behavior impacts deaf and hard of hearing people's experiences of captioning. However, prior work has not yet explored how video conferencing tools could better support groups of people using captioning online, guiding us to our research questions. First, how do mixed deaf and hard of hearing and hearing groups think about, interact with, and react to captions during online conversations? And second, what kinds of and designs for real-time feedback during online captioned conversations interest mixed groups of deaf and hard of hearing and hearing people? To answer these questions, we ran a three-phase co-design study. When recruiting participants, we sought established small groups of 3 to 6 people, with at least one deaf or hard of hearing member and at least one hearing member. We also sought groups with experience communicating together online, looking to learn from their existing practices and barriers. We recruited 3 groups who fully met our criteria, 13 participants total, 7 deaf or hard of hearing, and 6 hearing. We also recruited one group of 4 participants, 3 deaf and hard of hearing, 1 hearing, who provide a complementary perspective on signers' experiences with captioning. Each group of participants joined us for 3 co-design sessions. During the first session, we observed and reflected on participants' current communication practices, then introduced the idea of designing captioning support tools for the group and brainstormed ideas. The second session began by reviewing and adding to feature ideas. Then participants individually sketched their favorite ideas, presented them to the group, and identified group priorities. After the second session, research developed video prototypes of each group's top 3 design features. The third and final session had groups view and react to their own video prototypes before reviewing other groups' designs. This process resulted in findings in 2 key areas: participants' current practices and preferences for future designs. We'll begin with current practices. Our paper outlines findings around individual and group practices and how groups develop access norms. Today, we'll focus on the latter 2 findings. Our 4 study groups described their approaches to communication, which I'll now highlight. Group A is a group of cousins who have been close since childhood. They did not describe actively negotiated accessibility approaches, but found that they could communicate effectively. As one participant, Allison, put it, when you grow up with it, it's just, you already have your system down. Group B, on the other hand, is a group of colleagues who work on developing technology for deaf and hard of hearing users and run their work meetings with highly structured communication norms. One hard of hearing member, Blake, said, "I was pretty emotional after the first meeting because it was just so inclusive." Group C is a group of friends, 2 of whom are deaf signers and one of whom is a CODA, or child of deaf adults. Because of their shared cultural context, they didn't have to say the rules to communicate. Colin understood that when he was talking with his deaf friends, he would take on deaf communication values rather than hearing values. Group D is a group of 3 deaf friends and one member, Daisy's hearing mom. As Daisy put it, captioning is a less commensurate method of communication support for signers. However, when captioning is the available communication tool, Deanna described that their goal is to be very accommodating and flexible, figuring out how to make communication work. Looking at these practices as a whole, it's clear that rather than a one-size-fits-all approach to accessible conversation between deaf and hard of hearing and hearing people, groups develop tailored and contextual approaches. We also talked with groups about how they came to make their conversations accessible and what it took to develop those norms. Groups invested time and effort into shifting their communication styles to be more accessible. This required full group buy-in. Brenda actively moderates conversations, hoping that when a hearing person also makes those requests and reminders, that it just helps reinforce the need for making sure that things are accessible. However, groups noted that this effort can create significant overhead. It's not easy to shift or maintain these norms. After a conversation where he was monitoring captions for errors, Colin noted, "There is a lot of cognitive load there, and I'm not even the deaf person." Having identified accessible norms as valuable but difficult to adopt, we explored how technology could support groups in this effort. Participants' co-design process led to designs that fell into 4 buckets: speaker identity and overlap, support for behavioral feedback, video conferencing infrastructure for accessibility, and providing greater sound information. We'll highlight overall design priorities and then dig into designs from the first 2 buckets today. Participants desired broader implementation of speaker identification and caption customization. They also wanted notification systems to increase awareness of speaker overlap, speech rate, comprehension critical caption errors, and the need for a clear camera feed. Further, participants valued video conferencing infrastructure to set, share, and customize group access practices. Finally, they wanted built-in non-speech sound recognition. There were also ideas that participants proposed that, upon reviewing video prototypes, they reevaluated. Pop-up alerts to identify conversation breakdowns were found to present more challenges than benefits, and participants were not a fan of displaying volume via caption styling. We'll now dive into 2 features, starting with speaker identity and overlap. On the screen is a still of the video prototype that we created, identifying speakers in captions displayed underneath their video feeds, using both their name and a color that is linked to their video feeds. This prototype also shows that when 2 speakers overlapped, both of their names are shown in the captions, and a gray pop-up box reads, "Multiple speaker warning." While identifying speakers in captioning is not novel, participants stress that it is crucial. As Camille put it, "If I don't know who's speaking, I don't have the contextual information." Participants flagged that designing speaker identification to work for signers requires attending to the reality that, as David put it, when there are a lot of deaf people and a single interpreter, it's not really entirely clear who's doing the actual uttering. Furthering speaker identification to be able to identify speaker overlap was also promising, though participants highlighted that it needed to be able to catch the attention of hearing people not using captions, and also not discourage shyer participants from joining in conversation. Next, one form of behavioral feedback participants proposed was being able to push a pause button and send a pop-up alert to conversation partners when the pace of conversation became inaccessible. Daisy explained that often during conversations, once I finally get to that point where I can actually add something, now it's the wrong time. And she imagined being able to request a pause so she could join in. Participants saw some positives. Blake imagined that it could empower the person who's maybe too timid to speak. However, overall, participants concluded that getting a pop-up alert would be disruptive and hard to respond to. Anna imagined, "I would panic and not know what to do from there." Despite agreeing on the need to flag conversational breakdown, participants did not find a technical tool they liked to accomplish this goal. We'll now finish with some broader takeaways. First, conversation access needs to be addressed as a fundamentally social problem, shaped by the relationships of conversation participants. However, there is room for technology to support groups in developing accessible norms and guidelines. Many of these technologies are not traditionally novel, but are desired, not currently widely implemented, and have high potential for impact, a promising paradigm for future work. Thank you so much for your attention. This work was made possible by all of my co-authors and funding support. I'd be happy to take questions online or look forward to discussing this work with you in Hamburg.